I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
That's Booby.
And Vita and Chip and Culpy.
We're about to be gone. I don't even know when this is going to get released, so we might already be gone by the time.
Probably we will be. We'll probably be in California by the time you're watching this.
Right.
Or we'll be flying back to Maine. Who knows?
Yeah, depends. But anyway, Iron Maiden, my favorite old school band.
Yep.
This is Fear.
Fear of the dark.
Fear of the dark.
You know, a lot of people have a fear of the dark.
92. Yeah. Were you ever a Fear of the Dark person?
I was what was in the dark. It wasn't the dark.
Yeah, it's...
No, it's not the same thing. Because some people, like, once I would check the room and I knew I was good, I was fine.
Yeah, I'm not sure how different that is. So you were afraid of what could possibly be in the dark, which is... The reason people are afraid of the dark is because they can't see what's around them.
Yeah, but some people will check all around, and then they close the lights, and they crawl in bed, and they're still scared.
Yeah, because they think that there's something that is hiding or something. You know what I mean?
But
like
you already checked everywhere.
Yeah, it's not rational. But I still think the fact that they can't see... I don't really see there's any real distinction between fearing the dark and fearing what's in the dark. Well, what would you call that? Fear of what you can't see in the dark?
No, I was afraid of, like, a demon, or I was afraid of, like, some man in my... Mostly I was afraid there was a man in my closet.
Were you afraid that there was a man in your closet when the light was on?
Yes.
Okay, I guess that's different.
That's why I would check. I'd go into my room and I'd check.
I just think it's the unknown. You want to check us out? Middle America, Vin and Sori. If we're, like, flying and stuff and we're out of pocket, you can't talk to us, you can go to the Middle America Vin and Sori. You can see the fireside chats.
Yep.
Or if you want to really get close to us, you can get a shirt.
So somebody messaged me today and they were like, I'm so angry at people. I'm like, why? They said, because they said you guys are only about the money. We are trying to make a business out of this. But we do enjoy doing stuff.
Unbelievable.
There's like, there's both. Like, it's obviously something we're trying to go full time.
Unbelievable.
But, you know.
Anyway. Alright, so this is Iron Maiden. Fear of the Dark from the album. What's the name of the album? Fear of the Dark. So this is the title track. Alright. Fear of the Dark. Let's go. Go.
And go.
Dark road at night or strolling through the park. When the light begins to change, I sometimes feel a little strange, a little anxious when it's dark. Fear of the dark, fear of the dark. I have a constant fear that something's always near. Fear of the dark, fear of the dark. I have a phobia that someone's always there. a dark road. I am the man who walks alone.
Is that the very first line?
No.
Well, yeah.
Oh,
He just inverted it
yeah.
so that he ended up saying he walks alone.
I like this one quite a bit.
I've never seen somebody be
So that was to your point.
that honest about
Well, how he
being
feels.
afraid of the dark.
That was to your point. You said that fear of the dark is like, because that's what he was afraid of, somebody who's watching him.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't really see much material difference between
Yeah.
that and that. Yeah. Yeah, I've never seen somebody that honest. Like, have you ever heard a grown man or a grown woman
I've
say,
never.
I have a fear of the dark? Like, straight up, boom. I'm afraid of the dark.
That's the only person I've ever met.
Yeah, but she
was
wasn't-
not an adult.
She will never be an adult to me, ever. Ever. Like, she will perpetually be 16. Because there's no difference between when I first met her and, like, of course now she's gonna be a mom of her own. And,
Right.
But because she's so little. This guy's
Yeah.
like a big giant rock star.
I know. Yeah, I
Rule
thought
of the
it
world,
was.
and he's
Yeah.
scared that I thought that was. It's pretty freaking.
Put it out there.
You gotta be pretty.
But you can relate to it if have you ever been afraid of the dark?
I was afraid of a lot of like stuff that happened in real life when I was a kid.
Oh yeah, we talked about this.
Because I saw a whole bunch of stuff
Right.
pretty early when I was a kid. So I didn't have the opportunity
Yeah.
to make up stuff to be afraid of. Mm-hmm. Because there was like real life stuff to be afraid of.
Right.
So,
Right.
But it's interesting because my older brother had a phase when he was afraid of the dark. And if he would really get scared after watching horror movies. This is interesting. My older brother would be scared after watching horror movies. Mm-hmm. But he'd still want to watch them. My younger brother he'd also get scared after, like Freddy, forget it. Like you couldn't even mention the term Freddy or anything. And he
No,
was
I know.
convinced.
My sister was like that. But she didn't even watch it. She just saw the poster.
Well, Freddy the concept is pretty crazy because you can't sleep basically. Because he goes to you in your dreams.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, we didn't know that.
So
We
that's
didn't
what.
know that.
Yeah, that's what people get. He kills people in their dreams. So.
Oh my god.
And if you die in your dream, you die in real life. So.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So it's a pretty terrible concept.
Yeah.
You know, because it's like it's not the dark per se. It's
Right.
like you feel that drowsiness start to hit you. You're like, you're screwed.
So you don't want to cover your head.
Oh yeah. No. Right.
It'll help you fall asleep.
Right. Yeah. That was like one of the most all-time. I remember being a kid and being like, well, geez, yeah, that's pretty terrible.
Yeah.
But it never really affected me. But the
Yeah.
real life. But what's interesting is like the real life stuff affected me emotionally way more than my other brothers. It seemed. Mm-hmm. It seemed like they were able to adjust to that stuff and go on fine, and I was really, I was really troubled by it to this day. But the movie stuff didn't bother me at all. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. And it's probably the same thing. It's just where you're deciding to put your bad feelings about something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, I'm going to blame it on this, this show, when in reality you're just scared anyway.
Yeah.
Which,
Yeah, it could be.
it's probably what it was, but.
I mean, I could relate with everything he was saying. But the only thing is, when I would feel like my skin crawl when I was trying to get the light, I would force myself to get more calm. Like I was just flicking on the light. It has nothing to do with fear.
Fear.
Because, like we were all, like you guys know, I grew up in a religious home, so there was always like the supernatural element to it. So yeah, it might be some person that broke into your house and is in your closet, but it also could be a demon.
Yeah, isn't it?
You don't want the demon to know you're scared of him.
Isn't it like, I feel like the Pentecostal tradition that you came up with carried with it a bunch of
Fear?
superstition.
Yeah, it did.
Like Pentecostalism to me was like
It really
extremely
did.
super. I didn't even hear my mom like, don't say stuff out loud.
Yeah,
devil
you couldn't say
can hear
stuff
you,"
out loud. So you had
all
to
this-
pray certain prayers, like don't say your legit fears into the
Yeah, it's
into
like
the
I remember you were telling me that stuff when we first met. I was like, where is any of that in the Bible? You're not supposed to scare the devil. Like, where is that coming from?
Yeah.
And you'd be like, oh, you said something like, it's common sense, Vin. It's like, what? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just felt like Pentecostalism carries a lot of like superstitious. Well, the trade-off to that though is that you see a lot of supernatural stuff happen in Pentecostalism.
You do. Yeah.
See, that's the thing.
Yeah.
It's like if people knew like these like ghost hunters or whatever people, whatever, if they really understood like what it's like to be a Pentecostal,
they would be a Pentecostal rather than a ghost.
they would be a Pentecostal for sure. Because you see stuff.
I know, yeah.
Like stuff happens, and it's like, yeah, it's stuff that you can't explain, even if you're not a fan of that stuff.
Yeah.
Because we've known people who, you know, had certain experiences and then they like quelled it because it was like.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You know.
Yep.
But you just can't. You know, it's hard to explain to somebody that's outside of it.
Mm-hmm.
So the trade-off is like you really do see or encounter supernatural things at rates that other groups of Christians will not. But at the same time, you're also, I think it's because of that, you're also a lot more.
Yeah, could be.
You're a lot more gullible and superstitious. I think I'm saying the proverbial you. To supernaturalism because it affects you. It affects you so much.
Yeah.
So it's a trade-off. Fear of the dark. I have a constant fear that something's always near. I have a phobia that someone's always there. Okay, so this is interesting, right? Because he starts a song and he ends a song with walking alone.
Yeah.
And that's usually looked upon as like something that's not positive or negative. But then when you ask him, well, what are you really afraid of in the chorus?
What do you mean? It's usually looked at as a negative thing, like if you're alone.
Well, yes, that's my point. Is that it's usually looked on as being bad that you're walking alone. But then when you ask him, okay, well, what are you afraid of? If you go to the chorus, he's afraid that somebody's there.
Yeah.
So it's a really interesting dichotomy of being a loner and walking alone and probably not liking it, while at the same time your ultimate fear of the dark is that somebody's there that you can't see. You know what I mean?
Oh,
So
yeah.
It's like...
Yeah. Well, there's a difference.
What do you mean?
When you want to be alone, you want to be alone. You don't want somebody creepy peeking at you.
Yeah, but I don't get the impression that when he says, I'm a man who walks alone, that he's doing that on purpose. I don't get the impression that he constructed his life to be alone.
No, but I'm saying when you expect that you're alone, you want to be alone. You don't want to have somebody peeking at you, and that's creepy. But if you want to, you know...
Well, see, here's the thing. Here's the thing is that, like, the sword cuts both ways. Like, well, my atheist friends are like, Finn, how do you know that you're not just, you know, ascribing to a certain belief system because you want to believe that there's an afterlife or that there's somebody watching over you and da-da-da-da. And I say, yeah, of course, that definitely is a possible theory. But they almost never think of the other possible theory, which is, how do you know that you're not completely discounting the supernatural world? Because if you did, it would open up a whole ball of wax.
Oh, yeah.
Because if you look at human history, supernaturalism has not been comforting to people. The vast majority of times, if you look at human history and human religions, the people have done all types of crazy things to deal with the gods. Sacrifice their own children.
Oh, yeah.
Or whatever. Supernaturalism has generally, very rarely been a comforting thing.
Right.
A lot of the times it's been a fear. So how do you know that you're not holding on to supernaturalism because you're afraid of the natural reality, the supernatural reality?
I heard somebody say one time too that like, or maybe you want to discount the fact that there could be something supernatural because if you do believe it, then that means that you're going to have to fall in line with certain like ideas or rules that higher entity has for you, and you don't want to. So it's much easier to just say, nah, he doesn't exist.
Well, yeah, God.
Yeah.
But when I say supernatural, it's more than just God. I'm just talking about entities that cannot be measured with the tools that we have at our disposal.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, having a naturalistic worldview kind of gives you control over the world around you because you can measure it. You can control
Sure.
it. You can put it on a microscope, or you can hear it in a stethoscope, or you can look at it in a telescope, and like we have certain types of control over it. But if there is a supernatural dimension that cannot be measured with any of those things, then we have no control over it. There's no predictability,
Right.
and there's no way we can stop it from invading our. And that is some scary shit.
Yeah.
So it's like, how do you know that you're not a naturalist for that reason? Like both theories are absolutely feasible. If a person says, well, I can prove it. Well, no, you're only proving your natural. It's it's circular reasoning, because you're only proving naturalism from naturalist presuppositions. You're saying if I can't measure it in a microscope, then it's not real. Okay, well that's circular logic.
Right.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying, like, think it through. Like, if you lived in a world that you thought was inhabited by malevolent forces that you couldn't control, what would you do? Like, how would you live? Because that opens up a whole ball of wax, and because nothing that we have invented in the natural world is going to be able to deal with that stuff. So it's just better to not believe it. You just made the whole thing up.
I didn't understand this. Have you run your fingers down the wall?
Maybe like figure out spatially where you are. You know what I mean? Like,
when you're trying to find the light.
Yeah, you're
Your
trying to find the
fingers
light,
go down, because he says, and felt your neck skin crawl when you're searching for the light.
Right.
So that's what. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that is a creepy feeling when you're and you can't find it.
Yeah.
You don't get like that.
Well, like I said, as a kid, I used to go downstairs, turn off all the lights, and play Nintendo.
Honestly, I'm still like that now.
Well, of course, you're playing Nintendo. It's not totally dark, but I always wanted all the lights off. I don't know. Just loved being alone a lot as a kid. And I found that if the lights were on, then people would come downstairs. They would. The only person I ever wanted downstairs with me was my mom, and I think she came down like twice to watch me play Mario 2 when I was a kid. And that was really special to me.
Yeah, I can see that.
But I didn't want anybody else down there.
Shut the lights.
So I turned the lights off.
You were in a basement?
It worked. No, it wasn't a
Hate
basement.
basements.
It wasn't a basement. It was just like a downstairs type of room. And then there was like a little hall, and then there was the stairs that lit up. And if I turned the lights off in the hall and in my room, nobody would come down there. But as soon as it's on, my annoying little brother would come down, or
Did they want to play too?
Junior would come down and read. I don't know. They just wanted to talk, and I just didn't feel like talking. I get in moods where I just don't want to talk. Like that. I was like that since I was a kid. So I just turn off all the lights or whatever, and nobody would come down. I wouldn't have to talk to anybody.
I was never like that. I always wanted people, unless when I became a teenager and I was working out. If I'm working out, leave me the fuck alone. Don't look at me. Don't talk to me.
Right.
I get really angry.
You get really militant. When you
I do. Don't talk to me.
You'd be good at, yeah.
But that's, you know what it is? That's just mental weakness.
What do you mean?
I don't want to be talked to because I'm annoyed that I told you not to talk to me, and yet here you are. Or I don't want to be looked at, and yet here your eyeballs are gawking at me. All those things bug me. And so now I'm annoyed and I can't work out as hard because I'm annoyed. It's mental weakness.
Yeah.
Because I get the same thing if I go running and somebody's staring at me too long, I get really angry. And I have to okay,
Yeah, but
right?
it's usually a dude staring at you.
Yeah, and that's what makes me mad.
Yeah, I don't
I'm
think that's mental weakness. I think you ought to be mad that dudes are staring at you when you're running. That's creeper shit.
It's creeper shit.
It is interesting though, because it's a strange dichotomy from a biblical perspective, because on the one hand, Satan is associated with darkness or whatever, but he's also associated with light.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So from a biblical perspective, Satan is much more likely to be engaging you in a completely bright room and manifest as an angel of light, it says. So it's not as simple, like good and evil.
It's not that easy.
It's not as simple as and the other thing is God in the Old Testament is talked about as being surrounded by thick darkness.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So it's like if people, I think people make assumptions about what the Bible actually says, because I showed somebody that text where it says that the good guys end up in eternal fire. Isaiah 33 says that the good guys end up in eternal fire. So I think if people really understand what the Bible says, things are not that simple. So the devil shows up as an angel of light, and then in the Psalms it says that Yahweh wraps himself in thick darkness.
You'd be like, oh, this isn't good.
Yeah, and then when the whole Mount Sinai,
it might not be good for you.
Mount Sinai thing, the 10 Commandments, he blacked the whole sky out, and it was dark, and people were scared to death. So it's well, from a biblical perspective, the whole heavy darkness thing might be God reaching out to you.
Right.
And the presence that you might feel in the darkness might be God reaching out to you. And then the person bringing you all the light and all the
might actually be the devil.
The fireworks and stuff could be the devil.
So I was one to know.
So that's the real curveball, right?
Yeah.
I was one to, what did Paul say? Nobody can say Jesus is Lord unless given it to him by the Holy Spirit or whatever. So I always have that in my back pocket. I'm like, okay, who's Jesus? That if they say anything fuzzy, like what them aliens say, I don't know if you were up, but this guy was abducted
last night,
abducted by aliens, and then they were talking about they all these aliens. I'm on this alien thing because of all the sci-fi stuff that we got from Zonia. Well, the aliens, they always say, or the ETs that are abducting people, they always say Jesus is a great teacher, and we're coming to bring you to his higher consciousness.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I didn't hear that.
Oh yeah, aliens talk about him a ton. The
weird.
Venusians, people from Venus. Yeah, I'm getting the lingo down. Play around. I know my stuff. Huh?
Scroll up because I had something to say.
Fear of the dog.
Keep going. Keep going. Just go back up to the top. Okay. When the light begins to change, I sometimes feel a little strange, a little anxious when it's dark. So I obviously have a fear of the dark. And I do feel weird. There's a certain light. I've showed it to you before.
Yeah.
And I said, I don't like this. It makes me feel very depressed.
Twilight.
It makes me feel anxious.
Yeah.
And some...
It's Twilight, isn't it?
very, very lonely,
yeah,
super, super lonely. Yeah.
It's Twilight, yeah.
I think so.
Yeah. I'm actually with you on that one. I'm not a fan of looking at Twilight. If I happen, I'm usually working all day, but if I happen to peer outside and see Twilight, I'm not a fan of that at all.
In the summertime, it's not as depressing to me as in the fall.
Oh my gosh.
When the wind is kind of blowing in and the leaves are blowing because they've all died off the trees, and then it's twilight and it's just too much.
I can't believe that there aren't more major metal bands from Maine, because it seems to be
so much that we
the perfect nothing to do, depressing. You know what I mean? The winters are long and cold and hard, and good Lord. All right, what do you give this?
5 degrees out today.
La ilaha illallah.
Can't zip up my coat.
California, here we come.
I'm
What do you give the song?
A 9.8. I really liked it.
It's 8.7 for me. I thought it was good. It got a little bit too repetitive.
In the fear of the dark part.
Right here after the chorus when it kept saying fear of the dark. Let's see.
I agree.
1, 2, 3,
it was too much.
4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times. Nah, bro, you should have.
9.7. You're right.
You should have come up with something else. So it's an 8.8 for me.
9.7.
All right, Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone.